The July 19th meeting of the Concord City Planning Board. Madam Clerk, could you call the roll?
Chairman Woodfin?
Here.
Vice Chair Foss?
Here.
Councillor Pierce?
Here.
Member Hicks?
Here.
Member Savage?
Here.
Member Smithmeyer? Here. Member Fox?
Here.
Okay, have a quorum, open the meeting. First item on the agenda is to approve the meeting minutes from the June 21st meeting. Would someone like to make a motion to approve those minutes as submitted?
So moved.
Second.
Motion has been made and seconded. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? That motion
I
carries.
abstain, I was not here.
Yes, for the record, Councilor Pierce is abstaining and Suzanne Smithmeyer is abstaining from approval. Okay, so minutes have been approved. We'll quick item overview on the agenda. We'll hear all the items on the agenda tonight. Just for the record, item 11, which addresses the break-a-day development, that's just on there for public testimony we put into the record that was received by the planning department after the hearing last month. We're not going to take any public comments or any testimony, just it's on there just as a placeholder. So we will move on. If anybody's here for that, there's no public testimony. Welcome to sit and enjoy this lovely evening, but we'll hopefully won't keep you entertained long here. Determination of completeness by consent is our item 5. We've got two items on the agenda. Item 5A, Nobis Group on behalf of Dakota Partners, and item 5B, Wilcox and Barton on behalf of Havenwood Heritage Heights, that are determination by consent, which means that we're not going to open them up individually. If anybody has any questions or concerns about those applications, if you could make yourself known. Any member of the board wish to push those off the consent agenda? If not, we'll take a recommendation to determine those two applications complete, not development of regional impacts, and set the public hearing for August 16th.
So moved.
Second.
Motion has been made and seconded. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? That motion carries. Moves us on to 5, I'm going to call it 5C. We'll call it 5C. We're going to pull one up out of the public hearing section of Breezeline Solar, which is on your agenda, is 7C. It's a determination of completeness, and it is a development of regional impact, so we're going to set the public hearing for the August 16th meeting. So if anyone's here to talk about the Breezeline notice before you're here, the Breezeline application before you're here tonight, it'll be on the August 16th meeting. Would someone like to make a motion to determine the application complete, a development of regional impact, and set the public hearing for August 16th?
So moved.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? That motion carries. That brings us on to item 6, which is design review applications by consent. Again, consent agenda items are handled in mass. The board reviews them, has questions. I think we'll pull a couple off tonight, but if anybody has any questions or concerns about items 6A through 6E, if you could make yourself known. Any member of the board wish to pull any of those items off the consent agenda?
I would.
Amanda?
6B, 8 Loudon Road.
6B, 8 Loudon Road will be pulled out of consent. Anybody else? Okay, so would someone like to make a motion to approve items 6A, 6C, 6D, and 6E by consent with architectural design review comments?
So moved.
Second.
Motion has been made and seconded. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? That motion carries. Let's pull up 6B and read it into the record if we could.
Granite State Sign requests ADR approval for replacement of existing signage with new 70.59 square feet internally illuminated wall signs at 8 Loudon Road, located in the Gateway Performance District.
I'm going to guess that this isn't as existing, right? Okay, go ahead. Sorry.
So I went and viewed the property, and they're not showing existing conditions to be a different tonal color for the front entrance. It is a yellow or light yellow color, and then the rest of the building is a very tan color. So my question to the applicant was, because if you look at the elevations, it looks to be that it is all one color. And so are they changing colors of the building itself? They didn't indicate that. They've only indicated the signs, but to me, if I just want clarification on that.
So that was an ADR.
And it was not noted in ADR's notes as I reviewed them that they had any questions about. There is a tonal difference between the front entrance and the rest of the building, and that's not indicated. and they've indicated that the illuminated Buffalo Wild Wings lettering is all white, which is currently all black now, so all white on a yellow facade. And I just had questions about it, so.
Questions?
So they did mention the color change of the sign. That's what they said that was the main thing that was changing. I do not recall them making any statement about the color of the facade or bringing that up. It occurred to me after the fact that we don't actually regulate the color of a building. Like if someone wants to change the color, we can't necessarily, we can't say, oh, we don't like that. So even if they wanted to change the color, we wouldn't really be able to regulate it. But I don't believe, do you remember any conversation about the color of the building?
Not that I can recall. It was more mild rebranding. The awnings they mentioned, but that was noted in their
Yeah, they
sketch.
did.
So I don't remember like an exterior change being proposed.
Yeah.
So if they change the paint color of the building, they don't have
It
to
doesn't
come in
trigger-
front of
right, it
us.
doesn't trigger
But if they
additional-
change anything on their sign.
Correct.
it's-
Correct. Yep.
Okay.
So, and are they increasing, sorry, Amanda, anything else?
I think from what I understand, they're decreasing the size of this,
Well, that was my question. It looks like they're decreasing the disc one, the round disc from 60.25 to 48 inches, but is that because they're increasing the size of the
lettering.
text, the other lettering, to stay within code?
That's a good question. I think.
I mean, I don't know why anybody reduced the size of their,
No,
sign.
it doesn't indicate, maybe one of the staff could answer that, because if they don't indicate they're changing the sizing of it, then I would assume that there's the same sizing, but I don't.
They basically said they're just swapping out the colors
From
for,
black to
like,
white.
correct, as Alec noted, for rebranding purposes.
okay?
For
Yeah, Council Pierce?
clarification,
Yep.
just to follow up on Amanda's question, would they be able to change the awning color under this approval?
Correct, yes.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, any other questions? Any questions from the audience regarding this application? Seeing none, we'll close the public hearing. Would someone like to make a motion to approve the application as submitted with ADR comments?
So moved.
Second.
Motion's made and seconded. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? That motion carries. That moves us on to the public hearing section of our agenda. If we could read item 7A into the record.
Catch Neighborhood Housing requests a one-year extension for their July 20th, 2022 major site plan approval, which is for construction of a three-story multifamily building consisting of 48 units at 303 Sheep Davis Road. They're also requesting 2 new waivers, and we can get a staff update on that if you.
If we could, that'd be great.
Go ahead. No, I was almost misspoke. You go ahead.
So this project came to you and received conditional approval last year. One of the big items was construction of a sidewalk, as it is in that side of Sheep Davis Road is within the urban compact. So they had to have conversations with state DOT, and they had those conversations, so they came back with us with some revisions. Part of the state's comments were that they wanted the driveway to be widened to 50 feet, and that is where the request for the waiver comes from, is to meet the requirements that the state is placing on them. The applicant is requesting a one-year extension to their approval, as it took a while for these things to develop, and they are asking the planning board consider requiring them to pay a fee instead of constructing the sidewalk along Sheep Davis Road. Though I should say that staff, in part of those conversations, staff is recommending that they build the sidewalk along their frontage on their private property, granting the city an easement, with the intention that in the future this could connect to potentially Walmart or the Walmart Drive and future development in the area, and where this is kind of the first residential in this zone, staff has concern with pedestrians on Sheep Davis Road, and as much as we can, keeping them off of that road.
Alec, how was it left in the first original approval?
The original approval was that the applicant would construct the sidewalk in the state right-of-way, and if the state didn't allow it, then they would construct it on private property, granting the city an easement.
Okay. All right. Is the applicant here? Come on. Any questions from the board? So 50-foot driveway.
Yes.
Ask them to sign it.
You guys could just sign in, that'd be great.
Yeah, Chris Netto from Novus Group.
Please, if sorry. If you could state your name.
Tom Furtado with Catch Housing.
Reboot. I'm not gonna reboot. Sorry. All right, so again, we're here tonight for 3 items. And again, this is 48-unit apartment building at 303 Sheep Davis Road, which is right across from Sam's Club. The first request was for a 1-year extension. We were here a year ago, July 21st, and Tom, you can explain the complexities of financing and why we're asking for a year extension.
Yes, absolutely. The closing on a low-income housing tax credit program, the equity and the financing involved takes some time. We've been working diligently on it since last July, and we are happy to report that everything is lining up, but we're not going to have a closing for another 60 to 90 days. Therefore, we're looking for the extension of our approval.
Okay.
Second item is requesting a waiver for the width of the driveway coming in. So if you look up here in the light gray off of 106 opposite Sam's Club, there's an existing 30-foot driveway that serves the business to the right, which is a heavy equipment rental. When we went to DOT, they had asked us to check the turning radiuses for trucks and make sure that none of the truck movements opposed any of the opposite lanes. So in doing so, we found that we needed to increase the width of the driveway to 50 feet so that there were no conflicts with trucks coming in and out. And DOT has agreed with that design at 50 feet. So we are asking for a waiver for that item. It's under the site plan regulations. And then the third item is related to sidewalk, which I'm going to pull up an aerial here. All right, so again, Sam's Club over here, the site's opposite the driveway at Sam's Club. Walmart behind, and the Walmart access road over here. So there are no sidewalks on 106 now, as everybody knows, from Loudon to Pembroke. And we had a fairly robust conversation at the planning board meeting last year, and it was basically decided to see what DOT thought about putting a sidewalk in the right of way. So we approached DOT, and they said they were okay with the sidewalk as long as the city was willing to sign a municipal maintenance agreement saying that they would maintain the sidewalk, plow it, take care of it. Staff came back, I think, internally discussed that they maybe weren't willing to do the maintenance agreement with DOT, so had recommended that we actually move the sidewalk onto the property and grant an easement to the city. And we're not against sidewalks, but we are challenged with building a sidewalk that doesn't have any connectivity on 106 at all. Nor does it have any sort of, do we expect it to have any sort of maintenance from the city? I mean, in order for the city to get a sidewalk plow over here, the closest sidewalk is probably on Loudon Road. Would have to move equipment over here to plow the sidewalks. Unlikely to happen. So the sidewalk, essentially, no connectivity, will be dead-ended on both ends and will be unusable 4 or 5, 6 months out of the year because there'll be snow on it. So the other challenge with the connectivity is there's really no master plan design for Loudon Road for sidewalks. Although contemplated in the future, no design discussing what side of the road's appropriate, both sides of the road, potentially a future signalized intersection at Sam's Club. So we just don't know what the most appropriate location for the sidewalk is, and the fact that it doesn't have any connectivity. I'm looking at the site plan regs. I don't think this requires, so what we're asking for is to pay the fee. instead of building the sidewalk. And if you read the site plan regs under 2102, I don't think this requires a waiver from the board. It says, the last part of the section says, when an isolated section of sidewalk is proposed or required, which we are isolated, the board may require the applicant to set aside equivalent funds to be placed in a city escrow for future construction of a sidewalk instead of constructing an isolated section of sidewalk. So that's site plan regs. And then the actual condition on our approval reads that following conversation with DOT, should it be determined that the required sidewalk will be built on private property, the applicant shall grant a pedestrian access easement to the city. So what we're asking the board for tonight is that Catch is willing to grant an access easement to the city for a future sidewalk, but we're asking that it not be constructed, rather they put money in escrow for the sidewalk for the future when some sort of design is done along the corridor to determine the most appropriate location and show some connectivity to other areas. I will also note that although Catch abuts Walmart, there is about 800 feet from the edge of the property to the Walmart driveway, and there is an abutter who owns quite a bit of that frontage between the Catch site and the Walmart driveway. So with that, happy to answer questions.
So my concern on the drive, on the crosswalk, and I agree, it's tough to build a sidewalk to nowhere, but, we've made a conscious effort to try to build those sidewalks out, to assume that there's gonna be additional development and try to put the pieces in place, so it's then just connecting and not going back. Payment in lieu certainly helps that. My concern is the amount of people coming out of a Catch housing to walk down walk down Sheep Davis or 106 and go up the Walmart driveway to go to Walmart. And I know it's gonna happen, and I don't know if it's gonna happen in the winter, I don't know if it's gonna happen in the summer, but I'm sure there's gonna be traffic and foot traffic. Maybe somebody will find a way to get through the woods in the back and go through that way if it's not too wet, but you're gonna have people that are gonna be walking, and I don't want them walking on 106. But again, your point's well taken. If there's 800 feet between the end of the hammerhead or the end of the driveway, they're gonna be walking out there anyway, so. You have something, Heather?
I can wait, I can hold
Okay.
off and let the board I just
Any
wanted,
thoughts on that? I mean,
Yeah, the concern is you're encouraging people to walk on a sidewalk that's dead ends and then forces them out onto
Right,
106 to
right.
walk
See
up
how sad
106 to
that-
get to the driveway. So, and not knowing whether, looking at the site topography on this side of the road, it's not an easy sidewalk to construct on this side of the road. There's about a 9-foot difference in elevation between the road and the actual site. The question is, and across the street at Sam's Club, it's a nice flat stretch of area. So the question is, in the future, is it more appropriate to build a sidewalk across the street, if a signal ever gets put in at Sam's Club, or to build it on this side, or both sides? We just don't know. There's no future design for sidewalks for
So,
106 that I know of.
so the DOT right away gets you up to a point where if you built the sidewalk, it's 9 feet above grade?
That's right. If we're on the Catch property, the grade is raised quite a bit. There's a big bluff, and I can show you some pictures.
No, that's okay, that's fine. What does that mean as far as safety? Does it mean there's a railing, a guardrail on it all the way on the?
Yeah, I haven't really gotten into the
Don't get that
design of
far.
it yet.
That might go into your payment in lieu of. I saw Councilor Pierce's hand first.
Actually, my question was just answered.
Look at that.
So how about that?
Suzanne?
So thank you.
So what was the problem that the city wanted it on private property and was not willing to have it on the state right of way?
The state wouldn't let it.
no, I can clarify that.
Sorry.
So the state was like, said, sure, you can build a sidewalk, but we want an agreement. That would be something that the city wouldn't really, it would be an agreement with the state, which would have to be approved by city council, and potentially all sorts of complications that the city wouldn't want to deal with. So it's not the case that the city wouldn't maintain it, but Chris is right. I mean, there are sidewalks, especially these kind of disconnected areas, that they get put at the bottom of the list. So it's not that they're not on the list, but it is more of a challenge when they're disconnected for the city to maintain it. And, depending on how much snow they have, they may or may not get to it. I just wanted to mention that it is in the sidewalk master plan to have sidewalks on Sheep Davis Road. And also the city would not need an easement if you weren't gonna construct the sidewalk. There's no reason for the city to have an easement there. So I think, if the easement's gonna be there, it would be to allow us to maintain a sidewalk that you built. And if not, then the fee in lieu would really be most appropriate, because that would go towards, at some point in the future, a bigger project for the entire thing when we get to that point. I just want to say I don't know where your property line, I went out there and looked, and I didn't know exactly where your property line was. It looked like it must be a pretty wide right-of-way, because it looked like there was a lot of room to put a sidewalk, but if it's that wide of a right-of-way, it might be, further up in the site where I wasn't really looking for the sidewalk. But our initial thought was it's a pretty short gap, that other property, to get to the Walmart, and that even just providing safety for that short stretch for the people that might be walking, and potentially is easier to fill that gap from across the other frontage with other funds, or with other, we're kind of ramping up trying to provide better sidewalk connections in the city. But I did not know that on your actual property that there's such a great difference.
Well, I guess
Just
if
to
you,
clarify, sorry, so the frontage of the catch site is about 800 feet, and then it's another 800 feet to get to the Walmart
Correct.
driveway
Yeah.
from where the point, the edge of the property is right where the culvert crosses the road.
Yep.
The stream. Sorry.
Suzanne?
well, I guess, wouldn't the city reconsider, because it would be up high on the private property, and it would make more sense to have it below, I mean,
It's something that would have to go to council, and council may or may not be
because that
interested
is
in
a danger,
entering.
I mean, it's kind of like a catch-22 in a weird
Yeah.
way, because people
but
are gonna cross.
The only other-
Think about maintaining it, though. If you have to get a sidewalk plow over there, you're gonna plow it all the way down, and then you have to back it.
yeah, I know.
You're gonna
I'd
have
have
to
to
back
call
it up
Public
800
Works
feet to
every
get it
weekend.
off the property, because there's no place to go.
There's only one other situation I can think of where there's an agreement with the state for maintenance of sidewalks, and it's been problematic because of that,
393.
right? It's not just,
393.
it's not just the city has their sidewalks in their list, and they can get to it when they get to it.
Well, if they did have it on private property, they could have the people who plow their parking lot be responsible for plowing the sidewalk, but down the road, I can see it would be really important, because the cars go really, really fast.
I know, it's a real
And it's
concern for us.
really dangerous, and people are gonna walk to Walmart.
Yeah. Councilor Pierce?
For information, the city plows from a city center, it's like a concentric circle. So where you get the most pedestrian traffic certainly is downtown, and for the children walking to schools, and then it goes out.
Yeah, no, I
From there,
totally get
yeah,
it, and I wouldn't
yeah.
expect them to do that piece, but if it was on their property, they could actually do it, or I don't know, but something has to be done at some point, depending on.
Sooner or later. David?
Just my one thought, I'm trying to think back to last year, and I can't do it yesterday kind of thing. When we talked about this last year, because of the nature of the development, being residential, was there some kind of a bus proposal to that site at some point?
We are in discussions with the city and the bus route to get a bus stop moved up closer to our property. I think right now they turn left into the Walmart access road, and our staff is having a discussion to try to get them to come up one more intersection, if you will. That has not been locked down by any means yet. But yes, that was.
I thought we talked about it a little bit last year.
Well, yeah, and it increases traffic at that point. If you're getting off the bus at the bottom of the hill at Walmart, then you're gonna be walking up the hill to get home.
Well, it starts to play into the site in terms of sidewalks and bus turnouts or whatever.
Any other questions? Any member of the audience have any questions or concerns about this application? No? Seeing none, we'll close the public hearing. Thank you for your testimony.
Thank you.
Any concerns from the board? Let's take these one at a time here. We've got a, first item in your packet is 4.2, to grant a one-year extension to the July 20th, 2022 Planning Board approval, associated conditional use permits. Would someone like to make a motion to grant that extension as
So
outlined?
moved.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? That motion carries. We've got a little request, yes.
I'm going to gently draw your attention to your findings. of
Ah, my determination of findings of fact. So we're using tonight's findings of fact as the testimony that we've heard and the excellent staff reporting that we've got. How's that?
Perfect.
Gently reminding me to keep on track. 4.3 is to grant the waiver to section 1810, 18.10 driveway widths to allow for construction of a 50-foot wide driveway where a maximum of 28 feet is allowed to satisfy the requirements of state DOT. Would someone like to make a motion to grant that waiver as outlined?
So moved.
Second.
Motion's made and seconded. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? That motion carries. 4.4 is staff recommends the board determine if the sidewalk is required on the property with an easement to the city, or the applicant may pay in lieu of, fee in lieu of construction. What's our thought on that? I was hell-bent on making sure that we had a sidewalk in this space, and now I'm not quite sure that that's the right solution. So, Carol?
Well, I guess one question I have is, if it doesn't make sense to build the sidewalk to nowhere now, why wouldn't the city take the easement with the thought that, I mean, if the property changes hands before
It
a
doesn't,
sidewalk is gonna be built and it's still gonna need to be on the private property, it makes sense to me that the city secure the easement now while we have the opportunity.
it doesn't sound like, and I don't know the answer to this, but it doesn't sound like it's technically feasible to put it up there. If it's that much of a difference and that much of a challenge that they can't do it, I think if the city were to do a larger project and work with the state, hey, we want sidewalks on Sheep Davis, there's plenty of room in the right-of-way to put a sidewalk there. And maybe it just becomes a future, a future project that the city, a future CIP kind of thing, which we wouldn't need an easement to do that.
We wouldn't need an easement on private property because it would be done with the state,
Right.
which would be, I think, the better solution. Councilor Pierce is personally, I see him.
A question
Yes,
for our
sir.
planning director. If the sidewalk, if we took funds in lieu and held them in escrow, if we decided through the planning that the sidewalk would be on the other side of Route 106, could these funds still be used for that?
Yes,
Okay,
yeah, absolutely.
thank you.
Any other questions? Yep.
I mean, I'm just thinking, if that were to be the case, there might need to be an island
Oh, yeah,
as well.
and a crosswalk and
Crosswalk
all
and
kinds of
lights,
things.
probably wouldn't-
Definitely a
It probably
crosswalk.
wouldn't happen until you had lights at
If
that
the city ever
intersection.
entertained that, it would be a big project.
Yeah, all the way out. Okay, what's our purview? I'm inclined to think that we're leaning towards pay in lieu. If someone would like to make a motion to recommend that the sidewalk piece of this, how do you want to phrase that, Heather?
Well, I
Staff
think
recommends
just
board determine
if the applicant may pay, so,
Pay in lieu of,
we-
pay a fee in lieu of construction for the sidewalks along their property line.
So moved.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? That motion carries. Okay, thank you. You're all set. All right, let's move on to item 7B in our agenda.
do not know how to say this, so I'm gonna do my best. Penchioco Law on LLC on behalf of Strategic Planning Company LLC requesting a waiver to section 30.01 financial guarantees subdivision regulations to not provide a performance bond prior to construction of the previously approved Glen Ellen residential development at Hoyt Road. Staff has had significant conversation as well as with the city solicitor, with the applicant's representation about this issue, and I hope you've all read the reports and the letters, and I won't go into too much detail because there's a lot to it. But so staff stance is that everyone's paid this fee, and it's the only assurance we have that the road properly be constructed. We do have authorization at the state level to do this, and we've always done it. And so we're recommending that they pay the fee, or that they pay the bond, rather, let me say.
Okay, is the applicant here? Come on up.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. My name is Pat Panciaco, and I represent Strategic Contracting Company. The waiver we requested this evening has been an effort over the past several months, actually for over a year. Glen Ellen 2 is a condominium development, and there's 13 units in this project built on the limited common area within the common area that is accessed over a common private driveway built to city public road standards. And the improvements in this condominium are all private. None of them will ever be public. And all there is the common driveway that is used to access the individual freestanding units. There are no building lots, there are no public roads. And the reason for the request is when the application was submitted, because it looks like a subdivision being freestanding units on patches of limited common area, and because the roads are built, the common driveway is built to public standards, it was reviewed under both the subdivision regulations as well as the site plan regulations. Typically, when you have a site plan for a condominium that's served by a private driveway, the improvements are private. And the city's interest, or the town, whichever the case may be, is usually to make sure that the area is reclaimed if the developer does not complete the improvements. It's unlike public roads where an individual building lot where the dirt and the improvements are all freestanding independent units outside condominium ownership, where the city would be obligated, due to the dedication of the road to public use, to take over the road and finish it if a developer abandons the project. That a bond for all the road improvements is required. Here, if the developer decided, I'm not going to complete the project, the city's interest is to make sure the property and the land is reclaimed and stabilized. City has no obligation whatsoever inside the condominium.
So I got to stop you for a sec, because
Okay.
this is a legal issue where you're thinking it's one thing, and Jim Kennedy was very specific in the letter that he sent you, very specific, basically saying if you want this project to go forward, the guarantee needs to be done. So I don't know that you're going to change our mind here tonight. I'm fine to let you to speak on it, but the board looks to the city solicitor's office for sure, the code department and the planning department for direction. And you're not going to, I don't want to say you're not going to change your mind, but I don't know why we're even here, to be honest with you.
It was the only option we have available. This is a private development, and they're looking for $1 million in a bond.
Not true. I'm sorry, can I speak
Yes,
up?
please.
Just to
That's-
clarify, in our report, we let your contractor and your representative know that number that they gave, and we've told them this multiple times, multiple staff has told them that number does not represent the required amount of the bond. And we have never seen a revised estimate of the actual required amount for the bond. You have told us $1 million for the cost of all construction on the site. That is not required. The only thing that is required for the bond is the cost of the road. We don't have record of any bonds for similar situations for over $500,000. We do not know the cost that your bond actually is. The only number we have is the number that was given to us, which is incorrect, which is $1 million. So if your client wants to know the actual amount that they owe, they should give us a revised estimate that covers the cost of the improvements that are required. We do not have that.
When that estimate was prepared, it was prepared using the state pricing with the quantities that were agreed were necessary to build this common driveway.
So you itemized what your estimate is for. It was required
Yes.
to be itemized.
Yes.
There are multiple items in there that are not required as part. So staff can literally look and see, oh, they've included this grading, these retaining walls, all these things that are not part of the road improvements. So if your engineer or contractor needs to come in and meet with city staff to find out what is actually required, I would recommend you take that route, because right now you've only given us $1 million and it is not an accurate representation.
That's the only thing I have to work with. I'm not an engineer, and apparently the engineer did prepare the estimate in accordance with the regulations.
No, they did
No.
not. So you can take that back to your client and say, hey, here's another avenue. Why don't you meet with staff and find out what's actually required?
Well, the other option too is under the law and under the statute, which actually overrules anything locally, you're allowed to build your road and not request building permits. The problem here is that because this is a condominium development, the plan got recorded. And they're saying that's why we have to put the bond up. We would not have recorded the plan had we not been required to. We would have built the road. We don't want building permits until the road is up to base course.
Again, legal issue, not, I mean, this isn't something that we're here to debate with you tonight or not. You've put a request in, and like I said, we're happy to hear what you've got to say, and if you got anything else, please add it. If not, we'll tell you how we're gonna solve it.
I will send the engineer back to see who should they see to go through
Talk to Heather.
to Heather.
Yep,
I will have him call you.
great.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We do want to make a
Any,
motion.
yep, what's that?
Your motion.
Yep. Any other further comments regarding this application? No? So we'll close the public hearing. So in your report, there's really a request for the rate waiver. I'm gonna recommend that the waiver request be denied.
I'll second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? That motion carries. The request is denied. And again, follow up with Heather. Thank you. All right, let's move on. Item 7C in our agenda. Nope, 7D.
Yes, we moved on.
Gotcha.
Susan.
7D.
7D is Richard D. Bartlett and Associates on behalf of Foxfire Property Management, requesting minor subdivision approval for a two-lot subdivision at 1 Granite Place in the IS Institutional District. Staff does recommend the application be determined complete, not a development of regional impact, and to open the public hearing.
All right, do we have a staff report?
We do.
Do you want to make that motion?
Yeah, I'm sorry.
It's okay.
I'm not paying attention here, sorry. So, staff has found the application complete, not a development of regional impact. Would someone like to make a motion that the application is complete, not a development of regional impact, and open the public hearing?
Second.
Motion's made and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? That motion carries. We'll open the public hearing. Welcome to the table. If you could state your names for the record.
Dan Mullen from Richard Bartlett and Associates, the land surveyor for this project.
Steve Dupree, the owner. John Arnold, the lawyer.
All right, welcome to the table.
All right, in a nutshell, here's what's happening.
We'll have you sign in too, somebody. That'd be great.
Yeah.
Legibly.
Whoa, easy.
Let the lawyer
I
sign in.
almost
Let the
slunked-
lawyer sign in. He's
Yeah, I
got good
almost flunked
handwriting.
third grade penmanship.
2 lawyers and
And
an
a curse.
engineer.
2 lawyers in it.
Good evening, I'm Steve Dupree. This is the Chubb campus. It's off Rumford Street, Granite Drive, originally built by John Swope. The north building was built in '76. The south building was built in '85, after Chubb sold to Jefferson Pilot, then Jefferson Pilot sold to Lincoln. Lincoln consolidated, sold me the north building, subject to a 50-year land lease. They then left the campus in 2017, sold it very quickly to Brady Sullivan. I bought it from them a year later. So what has happened is the north building, 60% of the space is subject to a 20-year lease with the State of New Hampshire Administrative Office of the Courts. So they're in there for 20 years. They've got another 15 to go. And I think they probably are going to take the rest of the building. I had two private tenants in there now, one Concord Group, before they left Concord, took the first floor, they're gone. I think the state's going to take the rest of the building. And then the south building, which is they're both about 100,000 square feet. When the state decided they were going to build a new legislative parking garage back there, they needed a new office for the Department of Justice, which had moved in when New Hampshire Savings Bank went out of business. They've got about 150 people stuffed into space that was designed for 35 and knew they needed to move even if there weren't a garage going to be there. You might have seen last week the state's out drilling and doing the boring testing. They've appropriated the money. They anticipate starting on the garage about a day after the Attorney General moves out, and the Attorney General is going to move out as soon as we're done about a $7 million refit, which is going on right now. The state has a 20-year lease on the south building from me, but they also have an option to purchase. And they have notified me that they intend to exercise the option to purchase as soon as they can, which will probably be in early August. Their initial approach in dealing with the state is we don't need local approvals. And for those of you who are veterans of this board or working with the city, you'll know that when we did the courthouse, they came in and said, we're going to build this courthouse. Mr. Dupree, you build it for us. We don't need any approvals. And I said, no, that's not the way we do it. It's good to have a record and explain to the city what we're doing. It worked out.
And we did, for the record, we did get a couple things approved in
We
there.
did.
We did get a couple little,
And the
couple
actual
little
hook,
things.
the actual hook we had is I got the county to transfer the property to me, so it was a private owner then selling to the state. The state has said, look, we're going to buy this. We're going to just buy the land around the building and the parking areas. And it's a perfect home, actually, for the Department of Justice, because one of the problems they have downtown now in this new age of security are threats against the staff, the proximity of the building to the sidewalk where people could do nefarious things. So this is a more isolated campus. So even though they occupy most of the north building, and they have a 20-year lease and an option on the north building, they've already told us they're going to purchase the south building immediately. Now, the budget also includes a provision for them to buy the north building, and we were notified this week that they expect to exercise that perhaps in August too. But for the sake of simplicity, I thought it was simple, but it really isn't, we decided to do a subdivision. The state basically drew a map and said, we're taking this. And I said, well, let's go and make a record of this, because the state may sell the building in 20 years, who knows, and let's have some decent land use approvals. So what we did is we've got a subdivision application for the south building and the parking lots around it. And as soon as this, frankly, the state said we're gonna buy it even if you don't get the subdivision application, and even if you don't get it now. But that's not how I like to do business, so we're here to get a subdivision approval for the south building. We'll probably be back next month talking about the north building and probably consolidating them, but I can't, the way the budget was passed, there was a specific line item for the south building. The north building purchase is contingent on the sale of the Laconia State School. Go figure. What I've got to do with that is beyond me, but that's how they did it. So very simply what we're doing is we are selling the state those two buildings, the parking lot. Right now we're just subdividing the south one. We'll be back shortly with the north one because they notified us this week. They tend to buy the north one probably in September. And we're giving them an easement over the road. Now here was my thinking. Originally the state wanted to buy all the frontage. This will become tax exempt once the state owns it. And we know they never, I mean, they pay for water and sewer, but they don't contribute to our tax base. And I said I wouldn't sell them the frontage land because that's developable, and I'm going to keep that taxable, and there are a number of uses, and I've had people already approach me about doing apartment projects. So my goal is to keep the front land, give them an easement access through to their 2 buildings, initially this south building, which is going to be, after talking with Paul, we're gonna rename it because it's all called 1 Granite. I think the south building is going to be named 2 Granite now, but we're working that out. And then in the future, develop the frontage land out there. So we have a number of waivers. They're pretty straightforward. I think, you know, obviously, we don't need a waiver for wetlands or slope of the land we're not developing now. That's fine. That's all very agreeable to us, and we'll get the map straightened out. The only 2 things that are in the report that I don't think makes sense are, number 1, the state is adamant that we not separate the utilities. Usually when you have, you know, if the state owns the south building, we own the north building, they want separate utilities. Right now, these buildings are served by 1 utility. They have a 20-year lease on most of the north building. They have an option on the north building, and they've said, we don't want the utilities separated, and don't make us, you can't make us. But I just want to explain that. I don't, normally, if we had separate ownership, the city wants separate utility services. I don't think it makes sense. If we're a year or 2 down the road and the state's decided they're not gonna exercise their option, maybe we should separate them. But the way it works right now, they have to reimburse me for anything on their side that they're leasing. Anyway, so we have no problem, and they're going to buy this building eventually. In fact, they want to put more development out there eventually. The other one that was a condition, I think, in the report that I don't think makes sense for today is in order to have a developable property out front, the land up behind, sort of to the left on that map, was called Rattlesnake Hill for a reason. There's a granite quarry there. It may have grown over, but there's a granite quarry there. There's not that much of it that's developable. We'll figure out what to do with it. There may be a couple developments off Pennacook Street you could do if you didn't go very far, but most of it, you know, frankly, I think I'm gonna end up giving to the 5 Rivers Conservation Trust. The only real developable land is on that right lower corner, that when you drive up by there and you see that sign in that hill. Right now, there's a platted street that goes across there. That street was platted over 50 years ago when Ron Ford started his service with the city. And the intention was then, before 393 was built and before Horseshoe Pond was built, that when we were gonna connect over across the river. Obviously, we're not gonna tear down Horseshoe Pond. We're not gonna move the fire station. And so that platted street, which would come out right there, is never gonna be built. We have had discussions with the city attorney about discontinuing that, so we get a more developable piece of land, which will help the tax base. And I offered up, before we even had these discussions, that given the ongoing debate about whether we have a northwest bypass or what it looks like, it appears to me that you're probably gonna end up widening Pennacook Street, and that's probably as much as going to happen. And we have offered to give land on the south side of Pennacook Street along our property line so that the city could have a widening of Pennacook Street. I think the report says, well, it should be conditioned on working that out. That really has nothing to do with this subdivision at this point, and that's a debate we've got to have, or a discussion we have to have with the city council. So I don't think that should be a condition of this approval. And frankly, the state's already said to us, that's not a condition we're gonna live with because it has nothing to do with us. That's it in a nutshell.
Yes.
If I may, quick question.
Yeah.
You said south of Pennacook, did you mean north?
Yeah,
No?
On your side?
yeah.
South of the property.
On south, yeah, that's what I meant, on Pennacook Street.
The north side of
North
Pennacook.
side.
North side of the
Oh, excuse me,
street.
north side of Pennacook Street, south side of my
Right, okay,
lot,
thank you.
sorry, yeah. But on the south side of Pennacook Street, the homes are very close to that hill.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the only, and in fact, for the city to do an effective widening and get up around the corner and up around the water tower, there are a couple houses that are very close but we just wanna make sure the city, I go up that street every day in the winter. It's a challenge, even in a suburban. So over time, I think that's probably gonna be whatever passes for improving there, and we just wanna make sure the city reserves that interest. But we don't think it should be a condition of this approval, because it's completely separate from that parcel.
So I have a few questions for you, and I'll
Sure.
follow up with your last comment. So are you saying you say they're probably gonna take the north part, that they're also gonna come back and subdivide the north part?
Well, I kinda don't, yes, they're going to wanna, they're only gonna purchase the building and the parking around it, just like they're doing on the south side,
But
none of the land.
But they're gonna subdivide it, so,
Well-
and then you think combine it, so essentially there'll be a merged lot
Yeah.
in the middle of your lot
The
with
only
an
reason,
access?
the only reason that we are doing this now is that because of the state budget, they want to exercise the option on the south building at a different time
Yeah.
from when they do the north building. And I said, well, I'm not, I mean, I know you're the state and you can do whatever you want, but shouldn't we subdivide it for now? In case they don't
But
follow through.
I'm just asking if it's your understanding that that's what's gonna happen. They're gonna
They have-
subdivide the north out, and then they're gonna combine them, and then there'll be this
Little islands.
subdivide, this lot with
Right.
the access
Yep.
easement.
Yep, which,
Which
like
is
I
very
said-
odd, but it's better than,
not doing it. I mean, literally, when we started on the courthouse, they just said, we're gonna give you the plan and that's what we're gonna do. And I said, no, no, no.
yeah.
What happens if it becomes private? Who knows what 50 years from now? Let's do this the process way.
So, the other thing I wanted to, so right now, you've got a corner of this development that or something, is within that right of, where you've drawn your line of your subdivision
Yes,
is within that street that
yes. right.
Jim Kennedy is
Driveway.
working with you.
Yes,
So the reason that we conditioned it on that being resolved is because right now you've actually got, it's kind of a legal, they are related. It's kind of a legal oxymoron. You're trying to subdivide a piece of land that technically the city still owes. So it is a real issue from the city's perspective that you've got a portion of that right-of-way within your subdivision. So
Yeah.
basically, we're saying, you can't have it yet. Like, you need to resolve it so that we don't own it.
I'll take you
Until-
over to Administrative Services
Yeah.
tomorrow and I'll be the
Okay.
referee. No,
Okay.
I mean, look, the
It's between the
so-called
city
lot
and the
line-
state, right? I mean, I'll defer to,
There-
literally, I'll defer
I
to
mean-
legal on this. Like, I don't know if we legally.
Here's how we've defined the lot. I mean, we tried to make it as small as possible. I mean, the state wanted the whole thing and we
Yeah.
said, no, we're gonna keep this taxable land. The developable land is down here and that's why we wanted to
Yeah.
discontinue the road and give it that.
We're
I
fine
mean,
with all that. I just,
If you need us to,
like, can't you
Dan
just,
can draw this line, I mean, I
Yeah.
guess technically we could go like that and they could lose 2 parking spaces or 3 parking
it
spaces.
would eliminate and then maybe when they come back for the north part or whatever, you do a lot line adjustment for what you really, I don't know. But like, you can't have those overlapping really from a
It
technical
really
survey.
overlaps about, it might
Yep.
knock off 2 parking spaces.
Yep.
If that makes the world safe for democracy, we're on it like light on rice.
Yeah, I think that's good. And we're
We'll
happy
just
that you're,
adjust that line.
we're happy you're willing to do the,
Better ask your lawyer.
the Pembroke, the frontage.
It's not a hard one. They don't,
Well, so
they
the ki-
literally took a pen and said, here's what we
So
want.
if you're staying completely out of that right of way, my recommendation to the board right now would be approval subject to you revising this plan to indicate that.
Absolutely. Dan, he's on it.
And the other piece I will say is that the separation of the utilities, we've had a big problem. The most vocal staff members have been from fire and engineering on that. And so I don't know, Pete, if you have, based on your conversations with Martha, anything to add about the separation of the utilities, and not to put any pressure on you, but I don't really feel it's we're in
Planning.
support of engineering and fire.
Right.
But sort of, I don't know, can we condition the approval on Steve Dupree said it's all gonna be one lot sometime in the future?
They have a 20-year lease. It might
Because
as
that's
well be.
really what it comes down to.
I mean, they're not gonna do it. If you remember the great,
Not gonna do it.
they're not gonna, yeah, I mean, you remember when we were doing the courthouse, there were, our great team from the Concord Fire Department was over there, and then the fire marshal, who has jurisdiction apparently over the city's people on what fire codes. Milestone, Mark from Milestone, probably his hairline looked like mine because the state fire marshal had a very different view of what needed to be done for a state building than the city fire marshal, and theoretically it's the same code. Those were fun to watch and referee, and the state won. It's their building.
we're trying to look at it objectively. We don't know what's gonna happen in the future. We just don't like having two properties sharing utilities of any kind. 'Cause you don't know what's gonna happen in the future.
But they have
What
been
kind of a
for 40
disagreement?
years.
Be some kind of a disagreement years from now.
Yep.
Well,
So,
how about this? The state has a 20-year lease on the north building. If in 17 years they haven't bought it, we'll separate the utilities. But to have the state separate the two utilities going into the building where the majority
That's
tenant of
actually
one.
not a bad
That's, I was just
suggestion.
gonna say, so that's certainly.
Are you
a-
serious? Because that's a good.
That's a good suggestion, to be
I
able
mean,
to.
I get it, you don't want two different owners sharing one utility, it could lead to nothing but problems, but
So if, as a condition of approval, if anything changes with existing leases, you'll agree to
Sure.
have those utilities
if the
separate?
state says we're canceling the lease, which by the way, every state lease gives them the right to do whenever they want to. It's the challenge of dancing with the 800-pound gorilla, you sit down when they want to.
Good with
Yeah,
that.
if that changed, yeah, happy to,
that's a good
because if the
condition.
state isn't in there, I don't want to be arguing with them over the water bill or the sewer bill, and
Sure.
trust me, I'm
Okay.
good at that.
I think that resolves most of the issues that we had.
Well,
Okay. Any questions from the board?
So we'll see you back next month?
it's,
That was my question.
it would have made life a lot easier and less expensive and less time for these guys if the state had said,
You should have just come by yourself and not brought the guys with you.
well, we had to do the work on the, on the plan, it's kind of a,
And I don't get paid unless I say something, so this
So-
is me saying.
Touche.
I can't argue with that still being a member of the bar, but.
Any member of the audience have any questions or concerns about this application?
Yeah, the counselor, you
I have a
asked.
question.
Yes, Councilor Pierce. Sit up.
What's your tax bill on those buildings now?
It's a lot less now because the south building's been vacant for a couple of years, and trying to bring the last year that Lincoln fully occupied it before I bought it in 2017, and the use change, and adjusting that for the growth in the Concord tax rate. When this building was fully cooking in today's dollars, it was about between 200 and 250,000. That's why, we'd like to, I think when Brady Sullivan, before I bought it, came in here, or I met with planning and showed like they could put 210 units stuffed around the office, which I didn't think was great land use planning, but.
I think they said something like $10 million, I think they said evaluation.
Yeah, and so that's why we've fought so hard. The really only good land is that land out in front. Once you get up behind the place, we have a couple accesses off Pennacook Street where you could go in a really short distance and then maybe do a cluster development, but it's the old rattlesnake.
So
forest.
Councilor Pierce is mulling around a condition of approval to develop those front lots prior to
Oh, sure, no.
approving anything. So
No, that has nothing to do.
Construction costs are so low, wait till you see me coming back
Yeah,
on 20
yeah.
South Main Street.
Any other,
It's killer.
geez, again? Any other member of the board have any questions? No?
Thank you.
Okay, I'm gonna close the
Thanks.
public hearing. Thank you very much for your testimony. So Heather,
Actually, I just wanted to point out that we do not support the waiver for the electronic submission. We need that for our system.
No, we agree.
okay.
And I would like to just point out that all of the waivers, we recommended conditional approval, subject to them providing the information needed to relocate the utilities.
Yeah.
So if we're okay with that alternative solution of him doing some type of,
Covenant or
right, agreement to relocate them should the lease situation change, though all of those should just say that we do recommend the waivers without any conditions.
Okay.
So what's the mechanism for this?
So we'll have to craft up,
Utility.
we'll have to craft up something here in our
we'll make him earn his
approval.
pay.
Alex, I suspect, might potentially be working on it with some
He's drafting it
consternation.
as we speak. Oh,
Yes.
yeah. Well,
So,
that's what the
proceed.
lawyer will get his money for.
I want to make it for the motion.
What's that? Oh, they need it for the motion.
Yeah, we do need it for
And so
motion.
the concept is that if the state isn't leasing the north, then you're gonna separate them?
Yeah, that's fine.
So if any changes occur.
Yeah,
to-
the state, they have a 20-year lease.
Yeah.
They aren't bailing because
Because
it's
there
a
are other tenants
ridiculously
there.
stupid lease. It's so
Right.
cheap.
There are other tenants, so it just needs to be specific
So
to the
it's the
state.
state-
So if the
state-
state isn't a tenant in the north building, then.
So if the
I would
state-
just say something simple, like subject to the ownership or lease situation changing on the north.
The state's portion.
And
The
I
applicant
get-
will,
That's my point.
the
Yes,
property
There
owner
are other
will.
tenants in there.
Right, there's one other tenant in there now, so.
Okay.
And if the state bails out, they're gonna be on me before you are to separate it.
Okay. All right, I think we're good.
Thank you.
And then you're okay with electronic submission, so
Yeah, yeah, and-
1209 will.
Post-closing, we gotta put concrete bounds
deny that
in, and the
request.
waivers don't apply to the land we're not developing yet.
Yep,
We have to
yep.
come in for those. All good.
Okay,
Good, thank you.
Thank you.
thank you very much.
Are we not doing that?
So it just needs to specifically say the state portion of the lease, though. So if anything changes with the north building state lease.
The utilities will be separated should the ownership or lease agreement with the state of New Hampshire change.
Yes, that's perfect. Perfect.
Just in terms of changing though.
Did you hear what he just said?
I did.
Yeah.
And my only comment is that in terms of changing that, I mean, I think the concern is if it terminates.
If it
I mean, it could
terminates.
change like the rental rate
Yeah.
or something like
Yeah.
that. That's not what we're
Good point.
concerned about.
That's why they use a lawyer. Terminates. We'll put terminates.
You earned your
Thank
money.
You earned your money. Don't let them tell you different.
I also have, as an added condition, the proposed subdivision lot lines will be relocated to not overlap with existing city.
Okay.
And right-of-way will be
So-
granted for the city for the widening of
Is that in as a
Pennacook
condition?
Street. Yes.
So you have that, okay. Just keep me honest on that as we get there, okay?
Where is it in the report?
Yeah, I was just
Let's
gonna
make
say,
sure
is
that-
it in the
Okay, so
precedent?
it's on comment 3.2.
5. 5.3, 4, and 5 are our recommendations. Okay, so first and foremost, we got to deny the waiver of 1209 electronic submissions. So again, yes?
You gotta close the hearing.
Yeah, I gotta close the public hearing. So close the public hearing, and using staff materials and testimony we heard tonight as findings of fact, we've got 3 items in our agenda. So 5.3 is to deny the waiver from section 1209 electronic submission based on the requirement that electronic data be consistent with the city GIS. I think we heard them say that that was fine, and staff does obviously want us to deny that. So would someone like to make a motion to deny that waiver?
So moved.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? That motion carries. Continue the public hearing. What's that?
Well, we thought that we were gonna have some issues with the utilities,
Okay, yeah,
so that
just
they would
ignore-
have to give the
ignore five-
information. But did you do
ignore
5.2? I don't think you did the waivers.
Ignore 5.4 in your, oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, I'm sorry. Grant the waivers. So 5.2 is to grant the following waivers to the subdivision regulations utilizing the criteria from RSA 674-36-2N2, which is outlined in 12.07 wetlands delineation, 12.08 for topography, and 12.0810 for municipal utilities. Would someone like to make a motion to grant those waivers as outlined?
So moved.
Second.
Motion has been made and seconded. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? That motion carries. So that brings us to 5.5, and we'll have the changes there, yes.
So for 5.4, we can substitute what we have there for, that we recommend approval subject to we recommend approval of the subdivision, because we don't actually have that motion in here. We
Yeah.
recommend approval of the subdivision, subject to the condition that the plan be revised to remove the piece of the subdivision from out of the right-of-way, and that a new right-of-way dedication or land be provided to the city along Pennacook Street frontage for the widening of Pennacook Street.
So that's like the
Okay.
2 parking spots that.
So,
Yeah.
yeah. Would someone like to make a motion like that she just outlined?
Yeah, I know.
So moved.
Motion's been made and seconded. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, that motion, opposed? Sorry, that motion carries. And
Oh, I'm sorry, we did have to subject to all these precedent and some conditions.
under 5.5.
Yeah.
So if,
And all those other things.
and all those other things. So that was, so we're doing it again, minor subdivision approval?
I think Alec can fix it, because we do have to put the utility piece in there as
Okay,
well.
so 5.5 is to grant minor subdivision approval with precedent conditions 1 through 8 and subsequent conditions 1, and anything else?
One to be named later?
and one to be named
So
later.
Alex got it right now.
Right, I'm confused, was 5.4
I
the
don't know what
conditional
5.4,
approval?
I don't know.
I
Do we-
apologize, I should have just put that under 5.5,
Yes, you
I
should've.
messed up. I got under pressure.
Do we need to or want to remove that
I
motion?
think we
and
just
then
add
go
this
into
one
5.5?
to it, and
We
it's
can
sort
add
of
this
like,
one to it with the
yeah.
conditions.
All
Oh,
right,
no,
so
we
we're,
shouldn't- we should
you go
probably-
ahead with, you have, please read the utility piece in, because that's what we need to add into there.
all right, so
So
we're
would
on,
be a subsequent condition?
It would
We're
be, a
on-
yes.
right. We have, see, the utilities will be separated should the ownership or lease agreement with the state of New Hampshire terminate.
So that would be subsequent to condition 2.
2. Okay. We clear with that? Someone like to make a motion to grant minor subdivision approval as outlined?
So moved.
Second.
Motion's made and seconded, discussion?
So are we just not voting on 5.4?
Yeah.
Because
5.0
it's
is a
moved.
mistake. Yeah,
at
it's
this
moved
point.
at this point. It's taken over. for
Right.
it.
I'm not sure.
So we said, well, I said the other thing, and I made that 5.4, so I apologize, I confused things. 5.4 is not continue the public hearing, that's eliminated, yes.
That was
But it
just to
says
add-
something else
It was
now?
to add the redelineating.
I made an extra motion for
Redelineating
you.
the line, the line of the
We'll fix it in the
subdivision.
minutes, I promise.
Okay.
Okay, motion's been made and seconded. Any other
Motion I
discussion?
didn't dare.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? That motion carries. Okay, we're all set. Let's move on.
I apologize.
Hey, go ahead, if we could read item 7E into the record. Hey,
VW Dingham Consulting LLC on behalf of Messidi Real Estate requests minor site plan approval for construction of a new maintenance building of approximately 3,600 square feet at 99 Clinton Street in the medium-density residential district. Staff does recommend this application be determined complete, not a development of regional impact, and to open the public hearing.
Okay, staff has found the application complete, not a development of regional impact. Someone like to make a motion to find the application complete, not a development of regional impact, and open the public hearing.
So moved.
Motion has been made
Second.
and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? That motion carries. We will open the public hearing. If we could get a quick staff update on this?
Yep, this is basically just a new maintenance building on this property. We didn't really not have too many issues with it. I think engineering asked for a bit of extra information that we are willing to accept as a condition of approval. I went out there and noticed that they're very close to the property line for the properties on Newcastle Street. The original approval has a 50-foot buffer on it, so I let them know, and they seemed amenable to pulling all that stuff out of there from that area and kind of maybe adding some plantings in there to provide better screening, because they're really pressed up against, they have a lot of space up there. There's not, they don't really need to be so pressed up against the fence for the residential property. And that's basically it. This did not need to go to ADR because it's a minor site plan, not a major site plan.
Okay, welcome to the table. If you could state your name for the record?
Certainly. I'm Tim Lavelle with VW Dingman Consultants, representing Messidi. I'm trying to... I'll find it on the computer. Basically, it is very simple. They would like to add a storage building. A lot of stuff that is kind of creeping towards the neighboring property line is really kind of the part of the reason for...
I was gonna open it up for you.
Appreciate that. For the new maintenance building, there's a lot of plows and things of that nature, kind of just outside. So for their own purposes, thank you very much. Perfect. Okay. There we go. This is the area that they're discussing, that's kind of getting close to the property line. Because there is plows and all sorts of things, lawnmowers, et cetera, parked out here, and they'd like to just kind of clean everything up with a new building here, for their own purposes, to clean it up for the condo complex as well. So there is a stockade fence between those properties, but this, they agree to clean it up, add some plantings, and kind of get that buffer reestablished.
So there's incursion in the buffer?
Yes, they've got a lot of stuff back there.
No building incursions in the
No,
buffer?
no.
Just crap.
Just, yeah, paving and,
Yard debris.
right.
The,
Yard.
it just kind of increased over
Sure,
the
you know, I get it,
years.
I get it, over the years, I get it.
Seldom used planning term.
Okay, looks pretty straightforward. Questions from the board?
Do
Suzanne?
you have to provide, are you gonna work with them on the buffer, or do they have to provide?
I asked them for, I think I asked you for proposed landscaping, show us what's in my conditions of the staff report. I said, show us the landscaping that's out there and provide additional plantings,
Okay.
so, yep.
We don't have a landscaping plan
Right,
this
I know.
evening.
That's why we asked you to
Yeah.
provide something for us to look at.
And then you can
It's
just
a
work
very
with them.
small area,
Yep.
so, I mean, a couple trees should do it.
Make a big difference. Okay.
It's just, let's see, it's just this area here, where the new proposed building is and so forth. There's plenty of cover there now, so we would just have to replace stuff right in here.
Okay, other questions from the board? Any member of the audience have any questions or concerns about this application? No? No? Seeing none, we'll close the public hearing. Thank you for your testimony. If you could just sign in there, that'd be great.
I did, and thank you very much.
Perfect, thank you. So again, findings of fact would be the reports that we received and the testimony we got tonight on this. We've got in our packets 4.2, which is grant minor site approval for the proposed maintenance shed and associated site improvements at 99 Clinton Street, subject to the following precedent and subsequent conditions outlined in precedent conditions 1 and 2. Subsequent condition 1, would someone like to make a motion to grant that minor site plan approval as outlined?
So moved.
Second.
Motion's made and seconded. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? That motion carries. Moves us on to 7F in our agenda. If we could read that into the record.
Kalapa Realty Trust requests major site plan approval and minor subdivision approval for an age-restricted residential development consisting of attached condominium units along with a conditional use permit for disturbance to a wetland buffer at 61 Borough Road in the single-family and medium-density residential districts. This was determined complete last month and not a development of regional impact, and we recommend you open the public hearing. I would just reiterate that this did receive approval several years ago, almost identical application with the same sort of outstanding staff comments and engineering comments to be addressed, and we don't have any issues with it.
Okay, is the applicant here? Okay, so that's our staff update on that.
Rich, can I just interrupt for 1 second?
Yes.
I don't know, 10 years, 12 years ago, when it was first developed, I did the landscape plan, but I don't think I shouldn't have to recuse myself
Do you have
because,
any involvement in this new one?
no, not now.
You're fine.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. So anyway, there was no reason for me to recuse myself.
Nope, not if you have anything going on with them. Okay, welcome to the table. If you guys could state your names for the record.
Certainly. Eric Jones with Eco-Near by Design. Braden Tusher, Tusher Design Group.
Suman Adhikari, member Kalapa Realty Trust.
Great. You're probably right. We should open the public hearing, so we'll open the public hearing. We got a staff update. It screwed me up. I was out of sequence. Tell us a little bit about this, if you could.
I can give you a long history of.
No, that's fine.
Okay. Essentially, it's 18 new construction units, age-restricted, 55 plus. The 18 units consist of four unit buildings, one 2-unit building, and then the existing structure, which is currently a 3-family, will be renovated to be 3 units remaining with a public meeting space contained therein.
Sounds suspiciously like Abbott Village. I seem to remember them telling me the same process when we went through and then.
Careful.
So let's hope you follow a different path
Yes.
than that. Okay, and when was this originally brought forward?
Shoot, I want to say it was multiple times, but under previous ownership. Are you talking about this most recent application? I'm not positive. I want to say 3 months ago.
Okay, no, the prior application.
Oh, 2018, I think
I
it
was
was.
gonna say,
2015.
I remember it, but it wasn't 10 years ago. It was,
Close. It's like 2015, I think, wasn't it?
And then I think he recused his approvals in 18. So
18,
either 18.
okay.
2010, 13, something like that.
Okay. All right, so Heather, no other issues from the staff perspective?
No.
Okay. All right, any questions from the board? Any member of the audience have any questions or concerns about this application? No? Geez, seeing none, we'll close the public hearing. We've got in our application here to grant approval for the major site plan for the construction of a multifamily and elderly residential development, which includes 18 new one-story units and a renovation of the existing 3-unit multifamily building to include 3 units and a common area for the entire development, subject to the following precedent conditions outlined in precedent conditions 1, 2, and 3, and subsequent conditions 1 through 6, A and B. And again, we're using our using the findings of fact that we've got the staff reporting and the testimony we heard, the little bit of testimony we heard here tonight. So Heather.
So we've got 5 motions that need to be made. And I'm sorry that I forgot that there was this one comment that the proposed encroachment within the perimeter buffer, that's not a motion you normally make. You did make it last time, just so you don't get caught up with that. It needs to be made again.
Okay.
So aside from the findings of fact, there's there's conditional use, architectural design, and then the major site plan, as well as
Okay.
that perimeter buffer.
So tell me what we should do there. So should it be 4.22?
Yep.
So in the report, again, 4.2, we've got staff recommends that the board vote with respect to the proposed encroachment within the perimeter for the placement of underground utilities and whether the proposed plan preserves the integrity of the buffer. Would someone like to make a motion to
allow the
allow for the
encroachment.
encroachment of the perimeter buffer as outlined? Sure. Someone like to make a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? That motion carries. It's 4.2. 4.3 is to grant conditional use permit approval under 2843D ZO to allow approximately 990 square feet of disturbance in the wetland buffer with the condition that the impacted buffer be restored per the erosion control plan. Would someone like to make a motion to grant conditional use permit approval as outlined?
So moved.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? That motion carries. 4.4 is to grant architectural design review approval for the proposed one-story building and the site plan with the condition that the applicant return to the ADR committee with any significant building material revisions. Would someone like to make a motion to grant architectural design review approval as outlined?
So moved.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? That motion carries. And 4.5 is to grant approval for the major site plan, as I outlined before, prematurely with the conditions with the multifamily and the 18 units and 1 single unit. Heather?
Subsequent condition 2 was supposed to be deleted, so just so
If
you
the
don't
board-
get confused.
So subsequent condition 2 will be deleted.
It's a free condition for you.
So we'll have all the subsequent conditions with the exception of 2. Would someone like to make a motion to grant that major site plan approval as outlined?
So moved.
Second.
Motion has been made and seconded. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? That motion carries. You're all set. That's the fastest major site plan approval, I think, in our history, so.
Could I make a comment,
Yes,
though,
sir.
to the group, as long as they're here? For those of us at a certain age, over 55 has a better ring
It's
than
not
elderly.
I agree.
Just saying.
50 and I can't,
Yeah, just saying.
can't be creeping up on elderly.
Agree too. You're not the first person to make that comment.
Okay.
As a point of clarification, though, you mentioned 18 plus 1, it's 18 plus 3 for a total of 21.
Yeah, there you go. They have kids. You get 3 plus 3 plus 3.
Oh, I'm talking unit count.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you.
Sure.
All right, I'm going to move on to item 7G in our agenda. I need to recuse myself. Carol will take this one.
That was it?
You're
You're
done.
all set.
You're done.
You're done.
Thank you very much.
See, it was painless. After only 8 years.
Concord's easy, spread the word.
Right.
It's in my warrant. should
Let
ask if
them
they
get-
allow campaign
I don't
signs.
need to physically.
it's in my
move,
ward.
or do I?
You want me
This
to read
is-
it into the record?
Yes, please. Yes, I was
This one right
thinking
here?
about that
Yeah.
when he told me.
Item 7G is Keach Nordstrom on behalf of James Palmisano, requesting major site plan approval for construction of a new 144-unit age-restricted residential development
Yeah.
consisting of 3 new 3-story multifamily buildings, a clubhouse and related site improvements, and a conditional use permit for disturbance of a wetland buffer at 33 Old Loudon Road in the medium density district. This was previously determined complete, not a development regional impact, and we do recommend that you open the public hearing.
So I will open the public hearing.
Do you want a staff
Oh,
update?
yes,
or-
please.
All right, so this project was determined complete last month. They have since gone before the ADR committee and the conservation committee. As part of this application is a conditional use permit for impact of the wetland buffer. ADR I don't believe had any issues and approved as submitted. Conservation Commission was in support of the conditional use permit. In fact, they requested that the impact be extended slightly to extend erosion control down to the bottom of the slope. Part of this project is that sidewalks are required. It's within the pedestrian master plan to provide sidewalks along Old Loudon Road. This application was also proposing a trail connecting to a kind of a walking path that abuts I'll say the western side of the property. When this applicant met with the Conservation Committee, they proposed granting a 15-foot wide trail easement to the city of Concord, as it's in the trail master plan to connect the Broken Crown Trail down here. So the applicant's working and offered that up. Staff recommends that the board discuss with the applicant implementing renewable energy equipment as part of this development. And we recommend that the board discusses elevations and views potentially from Portsmouth Street or 393. The applicant is, at the applicant request, they are they requested continuing to August for their approval. And here is a public hearing, and they wish to kind of hear from the board and go through a few things, and so they can revise their set of plans next month.
So we're discussing several issues but not taking any votes. Is that the plan?
Yes.
Okay. Great, thank you.
Okay, good evening. My name is Matt Peterson with Keach Nordstrom Associates here representing the proposed project at tax map 611, lot Z23 that's in front of you tonight. I had my list of people, but different people showed up, so I'm going to let everybody introduce themselves here for you. We'll start on the right here. Lisa. Oh, there's Nick. I didn't see you down there.
I'm blending in, yeah. I'm Nick Palmisano, I'm with Ownership.
My name's Lisa Venditti. I'm the Vice President of Property Management for Construction Planning and Management, which is ownership.
I'm Jason Lacombe, I'm with SMP Architecture.
I'm Bob Best. I'm an attorney with Soloway and Hollis, and I represent the developer.
If you haven't already, can I just ask that you make sure to sign in before you?
We're getting there. It's up to me.
Thank you. I can't remember all that. Great.
Ran out of paper.
Okay, so just to kind of give you an idea, I'm sure you've gone out there to take a look at this. This parcel here is basically the transitional parcel between, obviously, the heavy commercial that you have out on Loudon Road with the mall that's over here, and obviously the Aldi's and the Dick's Sporting Goods and the PetSmart. Then we have the residential stuff that sits on the backside on Portsmouth Street that's back here. Oh, the mouse doesn't show up there? Sorry.
The red line, pointer right there.
Gotcha. So our parcel sits, we do not abut Portsmouth Street back here. We come to about the tower that's right here, and then we come around and come down. Great, my shaking as I'm getting older is not good here, huh? So our parcel's in this point here. We have 2 abutters, one here and one to the end that's here. So like I was saying, this piece is kind of the transitional between the heavy commercial to the residential. We've really worked hard to try to develop this piece to kind of blend into the area and fit in and not just blow out the area and open up all the trees to the other side. So with that, there is a substantial area from the house that's right here that comes down and around right in here that I'll show you on the site plan that we at one point when we had gone to the zoning board had proposed to do a residential lot up in there. But that's not what these guys do. And after that meeting with some of the pushback that we had heard, we decided that it was in our best interest to really concentrate on what we do. and proposed our 144 units on the other side of the pond. So our parcel is about 16.37 acres. And again, this here is a stream, a wetland stream that comes down through the wetland that's here and back up. This is upland on this side that I was talking about, and if you've driven down there, actually I was just on my bike on Friday through here, because they'd asked me about the view, so I stopped to take a look at it. Quite a few trees and view up in here, and I'll have an aerial that I'll show you on that. But we are proposing our development on this area here, and this is the cell tower, if you've been out there and seen kind of around the corner of our property. This will go to AOT. It's actually up at AOT. We've gotten first round of comments back. So we've done the soils on this for site-specific soil mapping. Obviously, the wetlands mapping were done in 2022 before we went together, before we started the project. What we'd like to propose is for 144 units in 3 different buildings, 48 units per building, located on the southwest side of the property, with the majority of the buffer remaining to the north and east of the project. We would have our main entrance kind of across from the Chipotle entrance. It's right down in here. Chipotle is right about here that comes across. So we'd have one main entrance coming in. We tried to make something that's aesthetically pleasing as you come in, and the architect has a beautiful flyover that he's going to show you of what this will look like as finished. That kind of gives you a really nice feel of what we were trying to create. We're trying to create a neighborhood. I've done a little bit of research on some of your projects that are in front of you tonight and last month. And I think the one thing you don't see here that I saw in every one that I looked at was a sea of parking. We really tried to create something that is going to be that they want to stay here. Each one of these buildings has underground parking. So there'll be 48 spaces in each building, which allows us to minimize the amount of surface pavement outside the building. So it allows us much more green space, much more landscaping as we go through the project. So to get into the site plan, our plan set's got removals. That's really nothing, something here or there, I think, with you. There was an old white house on the building at one point. That was demoed about a year ago, 8 months ago or so, somewhere in that range.
Yeah.
When my clients bought this property, when we first went out there, there was quite a homeless problem out there. They had actually created their own toilet that they had brought out in the woods there with them, and they were using the shed in the house in some of the areas. So we kind of went about to take that down at that point. We actually had done an archaeological study. There is no hits on this site here, so there wasn't anything from that, so we're good on that side there. From the site plan, as I said, the only thing different on our site plan sheets to you guys is that, this outlines the parking for the site, but the bigger things are the amenities, and we're proposing a clubhouse down in here, a couple pickleball courts, and a swimming pool. That look will look different next month when I come here. The architect is working with the layout of that right now. We're just going to move around the pickleballs, and the pool are going to switch. We're doing some walkways inside there and some lighting that was asked for from the architectural. So one of the reasons I asked for a continuance till next month is that we had gotten all the comments back in. I like to try and dot all my I's, cross the T's beforehand in case there's something that we miss. We can ask this board for kind of direction on as we get there. It seems like things are pretty clean. We are walking through this with everybody. The 2 things that came up were along the property line here. There is the existing trail that is out there. We propose to, as was stated by staff, to add a 15-foot wide trail easement to either the City of Concord, Conservation Commission, however we language that there, so that they can eventually tie that trail up toward the Portsmouth Street and obviously back down to Old Loudon Road. We don't have access all the way to Portsmouth Street. This would just get you to the residential house up in there, but obviously the power lines do run all the way back there. As I said, they each have underground access points. This one here is in the back side there. The next couple sheets, 2 sheets, these are really kind of the meats and bones of all of what we do. This is what takes the most amount of money, the most amount of time. This is proposed to have a closed drainage system. We'll be collecting the drainage in catch basins, routing it to 4 infiltration ponds. There is one in the front corner here. There's one in the middle, and then there'll be 2 more on the back side. one is up back in here, and then one is down in here. The conditional use permit that we were asking for, and we met with the Conservation Commission last week, we got their support on it, is for an outlet right here of our system. When we design the drainage, when we do underground parking, it becomes a big issue trying to get that water treated, especially when we have an AOT permit, and we have to treat that water before it gets out. We were actually able to accomplish that drainage there by raising up the buildings. So we've kind of elevated the buildings a little bit, and you can see the grading around the back here, and the grading here, and then the grading down here. That allowed us to raise the building up so we could actually put drainage right before we go into the underground garages, and then we daylight that to our infiltration basins. But to get it all the way out, so I showed you the one up top there, this one here's outlet is all the way over here. And we just needed to daylight it. So again, we have 2 points that we're daylighting, and then we have 2 encroachments on the back side here, one right here, and then one right here, that we propose retaining walls. Originally, we had them graded out into the buffer, but to minimize that, we put the retaining walls outside the buffer. But I'm asking for a temporary impact to build those walls. So after their construction, the wetland buffer would go back to what it was. It's 2,425 square feet total of impact. Of that, about 1,100 square feet is temporary. So I think for a project of 144 units on this site, we've really tried to minimize all of our impacts as we move forward. We've done erosion control plans, that's nothing big. Landscaping, one of the things that, unfortunately for me, this is the only thing everybody sees at the end. They don't see how pretty our plans are that we put in front of you guys. They only see what these guys put in for trees and landscaping at the end of the day. So we push for our clients to use terrain planning out of Hopkinton. Romy used to work for us until she had her 2 children and wanted to do more from home. Wonderful landscape architect, so we really like her a lot, and we try to put our best foot forward on all of our landscaping plans. The lighting is dark star lighting. I've been doing this 29 years. I think it's been amazing what we've seen over the last 20 years of being able to see the sky again. I mean, I know we saw in the past, but it's a lot more darker now, which is nice. So everything will be downcast. Still have enough lighting throughout the site. I did get asked at the architectural, like I said, to add some lighting to the clubhouse, the pickleball areas and that, and we are doing that for the next hearing. So all that stuff. We're about 90% through all the comments that staff had given us in-house. Just haven't put them all out to you guys yet. The rest of the stuff is really just details and that I won't get into, but I think I'd like to show you the architectures because that's really, again, besides the landscaping, the next big thing you're going to see.
I should have been more prepared, right?
Just to
Good.
clarify, make sure what daylighting is. Is that the right thing?
Oh, we know where it is down there, me. You want to take the seat?
Nope.
Ancient Roman sewers.
Like in Bath, you know, the England where they have.
I don't think that's what they meant.
So this, there we go, little flyover for you, so.
We were told we should put music to it. It's about 2.5 minutes long, so maybe next time.
You can
Speed it up
sing.
this time a little faster.
Oh, we could.
The crosswalk that you see there, we're actually moving it a little bit south towards the Chipotle entrance. We're going to put a light on the utility pole there to make sure that that's lit up for any crossing that's there. As I said, the middle pond in the middle there, infiltration, we see that as kind of a visual impact for the residents, proposing a possible gazebo and kind of passive recreation there as we utilize the site for our tenants. Our main entrance is in the middle. Those ramps coming up actually will have railings on them for ADA.
They do. You can't quite see them.
Oh, do they? Okay.
We were trying to keep the palette of materials very residential in scale. Again, trying to make this a community in and of itself and give, one of the things I appreciate working with CPM is their buildings are amenity rich. So even within each building, there are standalone community spaces. There are kitchens, lounges, activity spaces. But then trying to bring that together with 3 buildings, we're trying to bring that to outdoor rooms. So that center pond really became a driving concept. We had talked about making that a wet pond where it would actually have water in it year-round. So it actually becomes a landscape feature that we could have the gazebo and an outdoor space next to.
The only problem with that is we're up on the heights here and it's pretty much sand for 50 feet deep.
It may not be wet. It was an idea.
You're gonna need a membrane.
Appreciate that.
Yeah. So those are the walls to minimize the impact to the wetlands. Oh, and then as far as sidewalk, that you had a big discussion there, we've been working with staff. We're proposing a sidewalk, we'll work with engineering. I've thrown a couple sketches back to them. I think it makes more sense on the Dick side, if you've been out there, because it attaches to the Chipotle there, but we're waiting for engineering to get back to us on that. There's currently some curbing out there, but it's bit curbing. We just need to figure out how we're gonna kind of put that there. But we understand it. It was like number 17 out of 118 for sidewalks in this area, so they asked me if I could push back, and I tried a couple times, but obviously it's a pretty high value one that you're looking for here, so that makes sense. Do you want to get into the architectural floor plans at all? Is that, you guys want to open it up for comments or questions? You guys have been rolling tonight, so I don't want to hold up this record pace you're on.
Nor do I.
A quick question.
That's for you.
I will share, so Jeff Santa Cruz, one of our planning board members, couldn't be here tonight, but he sent me some comments. So I'll just share those. I don't even know if they're actually included in our current report. So you might say, hey, well, you don't know what I'm about to say, so unless you've looked at this already. One of the things is he asked for a truck turning plan for the trash truck, for the dumpster. I don't know if we asked for that already. Truck turning plan for the dumpster. Another thing he said was, he made a comment, 88 parking spaces should be as close to accessible entrance as possible, which seems to be an implication that he doesn't feel that they are as close as possible.
We'll work that out with them. They're actually closest to the ramp to get up to the entrance.
Oh, right, the entrance.
So
He
I
probably
had to-
couldn't tell
so
that
yes,
that was.
they're not right near
yeah.
the, but that ramp, the
And
steps
then
go
he
up.
made several comments which I think is what we're working through about extending the sidewalk, you know, the length of the frontage. But then he also made a comment about bike lanes. He says, extend bike lane both sides past driveway. So, there you go.
Interesting. I mean,
I don't think there's bike lanes out there, are there?
I think there is on Loudon Road.
So yeah. I ride almost every day right now, and Concord's one of my favorite loops through here, and I love that Portsmouth Street to there, so I was literally just on this Friday, and you guys actually have good roads right out there, so I'll talk to him and see what he's looking for. I don't know
Okay.
what more they would
Yeah.
need there, but.
He didn't expand.
Yeah, Alex?
On the west side of your proposed driveway, I think potentially when Chipotle came in, they extended the, I didn't measure, but I think they have like a 5-foot fog line. You can see where the road kind of widens out, and I think I had a staff comment about extending that across the drive as well. I don't know exactly
Okay.
what Jeff,
So like a wide shoulder kind of thing.
Yeah, but I don't know, if you bring up the site plan, you could probably see it.
Probably the existing.
Question? Snow removal is on site?
And then it gets narrow right here.
What you're gonna store the snow on site?
Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
okay, thank you. I didn't see that. Yeah.
So you're saying extend it all the way to our entrance, like an extra 20 feet or something?
Yep, you can see that
Kinda goes all the way to about right
shoulder
there.
here,
Yep.
and then it tightens up back up. So it would bring that and extend, that was my staff comment, was to bring that across the drive. I'm not sure exactly what Jeff was inquiring, if he wanted that to be extended beyond the staff comment or not.
I can definitely have a conversation with them.
Suzanne?
The landscaping that I see relates more to what's required, I think, in the parking. Is that true? But there's like a lot of, considering a lot of the original site was forested, I think if you could put a lot more landscaping in the backyards, not like shrubs, but trees. Because there's not a ton of shade on some of those, especially on the west. right now. And so if you.
I'll take a look at it, 'cause,
I guess it was neglected, but it's because it costs money.
no,
More than, I mean, more than anything, but I think that if you could add more in some of those open spaces, and not just for the, I get it for the parking, it's really, really important. And to use as much shade trees as possible.
And one of the things that came up at the zoning from one of the abutters that will probably speak tonight is we agreed to fill in this area in here as well with trees, because that's where the house was. So that's not on this plan yet, so that will be at the next hearing, and I'll take a look at throughout the site for some other things.
Because it just seems a little naked for a
It's on-
neighborhood.
I guess,
On the backside of the building.
Well,
Stark.
it's, yeah, I mean, it's just not, I mean, I know that you're trying to make it look more like a neighborhood, but I think that that usually comes with having more trees and more shade opportunities, and that's better for the buildings, keeps it cool. And you did cut down a lot of the canopy, so it'd be nice to try to replace that.
That's where the sun will rise first, right?
No, there's, the west is on the backside, see the arrow, the north arrow? So the summer sun is the worst
Yeah.
when it's setting, so.
But
and
where
the
they
east-
want to put the canopy is the east side, correct? In the lower right?
I would
Oh,
say west,
some, but she's asking, I think she's talking.
the
you know,
backyards.
Back in here too.
Oh,
some,
right,
or some-
okay.
Yeah, yeah,
maybe in
I mean,
here,
all
so-
around, but,
Yeah.
So
yeah.
tenants could walk out and have a shade tree to sit on.
Yeah.
I think it's a good idea.
so is it gonna be necessary to basically clear cut the whole lot and then replace trees? Or will there be any areas of existing trees that would be left?
So, on site, we are clearing this area in here, yes, for our development. We are leaving the trees as you go out over on this side in here. So again, yes, this is basically being cleared to our limits that we showed on the plan. There's a tree line, you know, so on this plan here, it shows that that clump stays down in here. It shows that this clump stays here. And then wraps around the buffer, as you said, up along in here. So yes, I mean, we're basically taking out that area where the 144 units are. So I hear your point.
Yeah, trying to,
Anyone else on the board?
Right.
I'm with Suzanne. I think that if you could possibly retain some of the canopy and incorporate that into the ultimate plan, you're not taking trees down to replace with other trees, you know, and waiting for them to grow back up. I think Suzanne's on track with that, that if any of the canopy can be retained and incorporated, that would be to your benefit.
Absolutely, and I can tell you, when I had to get the garages under, because I'm filling up this site and the grading goes out like that, that's how, if the building sat and I didn't have garage under, and I could pull the grading to that, yes, I'd rather look at some trees and work with you on that, and I'm gonna talk to these guys when we go. I mean, I'll have my tech look to see if there's any clumps that can stay, because we can fine grade it, and obviously we'll flag wherever we'd cut, but right now, I'm pretty sure it's what I've shown. But as we come back, I'll address it.
Thank you.
Anybody else? I'm trying to visualize the garages underneath, and will there be, what's the grade, I guess, of the floor of the garage compared to current? Do you have an elevation of that by any chance?
That's all you.
Yep.
You can see a little bit on the architectural elevations as well, and that link on the, there's one of the side of the building that shows the grade going down.
Yeah. So it really is a basement with one end open with retaining walls. So it's an easy drive-in, but relative to the current grades, I'm not sure where the building.
So the garage floor for building C here, which is the back one, okay, is set at 353. The two front buildings, 353 and 353. So all three buildings' garages are set at the exact same elevation. The existing grade is 350 here, so I'm 3 feet above the existing grade.
Okay.
350, 352, 354 is here, so, you know, right about the existing grade. And then when you get to the back, This contour is 352, so it's 1 foot above that's there.
I'm just thinking about recent deluges and the likelihood of further deluges and what's gonna happen there, so.
And so the
sounds good.
drainage wise, you know, we put catch basins here and here and here as they collect everything coming down the garages. Same thing over in here and same thing on the other side. So again, raise it up, put it on the existing grade so that I could deal with some of the drainage that we are. I had water in my basement and I told my wife I would never have water in my basement as an engineer the other day, so I.
And you admitted to it?
I know, right?
Wow.
It's on record now.
It was very little. It's gone within 2 hours.
Any other comments from the board?
Question about the temporary disturbance of the wetlands with when you say temporary and you build it back, is that just a couple of months? And when you said about 1,000 to 2,000, so it's like the size of this room, more or less, like you're like disturbing a small amount and then putting it back, right?
Yep.
With the retaining walls, is that the process that you're
So
going through?
first thing there, not wetlands, wetland buffer.
Buffer, sorry.
Yep, no,
buffer.
I
Yep.
just want to make sure we did not touch any wetlands on this
No.
project, it was good. And then, yeah, I mean, the walls are gonna take, Nick, 30 days, 45 days to build. And then at that point, they'll loam and seed it and grass it at that point there, or we could put down a wildflower mix or something like that, a wetland mix or something in that location that's there. But yeah, that's what we had proposed there.
So it's a disturbance to the buffer,
Yes.
but how much buffer will there be between the disturbance and the edge of the wetland?
So we put together a separate, where'd it go? Where'd the wetland permit go? So we put together a separate wetland impact plan, which just disappeared on my set for some reason.
What page is that
It's
in here?
20 out of 28 if you want to go to the PDF.
Okay, we got 20.
Might be 19.
Yeah, mine's
It's
19 here. So this wall up in here, the buffer that I proposed would go approximately from the existing wetland. So that's a 50-foot buffer. At this point here, I'm about a foot into the buffer. And at the point over here, I'm about 5 feet in the buffer. The
That's for the
outlet,
finished wall.
no, the
No.
wall is outside the buffer completely. That's just to go in and impact to
Okay.
build the wall. This buffer here is an outlet for the drainage, and that's approximately 25 feet afterwards, and that'll stay. That's a permanent outlet that's there, and that's in the buffer. And then down in this location, again, the 50-foot line is right here. We go to 0. At the biggest point, we're about 6 feet, and then we come back to 0. And that's a temporary, and then this is a permanent down here, and again, this one will go all the way to the wetland because we were asked at the Conservation Commission to extend our riprap to the wetland to minimize any erosion that would go in the wetland. So Jeff Lewis at COMCOM asked that we extend that, so that'll go all the way to the wetland. This one has a flat area at the end, so he wasn't concerned about it there and extending that riprap down.
Okay, thank you. Anybody else? Any other questions for us?
You should make a motion as a board to continue to next month, to continue the public hearing.
I move we continue this to next month.
Second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. Motion carries.
Thank you for your
You're
time
all
tonight.
set?
Oh,
Thank you.
public?
Oh, yeah,
Oh.
I didn't ask the public.
I mean, they did stay.
Sorry.
I don't know if they want to.
Anyone from the public want to make any comments on this project? Okay, then I will
They have next month.
close.
They got next month.
They will have next month.
He was here earlier.
Yeah, they'll have an opportunity.
All right, thank you very much. Have a great night.
We did not
Thank you.
limit the public testimony. Just for the record, we did not
Close
limit the
this
public.
hearing.
That's true.
We're set. Should we, want me to go out and get Rich?
No one told
Sure.
me there wouldn't be when there was.
Or maybe I'll read it. Oh, okay. Alex, can you go get Rich? Thank you. Yeah. Should we wait a minute? Let's wait. There he is. That's quick.
You came back.
I was watching on YouTube.
Oh,
Watching
Just
us or
delayed a
something
little
more
bit.
fun.
All right. Thank you, Carol. Let's move on to item 7H in our agenda, if we could read that into the record.
TF Moran, on behalf of Interchange Development, requests major site plan approval for construction of 2 new buildings, including a 4,940.
I have to use the bathroom. I have a few comments on that last proposal.
Okay. Well, that's fine. We're going to have a public hearing next month as well.
Okay, but there's a few points I want to bring up so that they be
Can
sure
you
to
just
bring
write your
this up.
name in?
Sure.
and
Can the
minutes?
applicant just hang tight just for a second? We'll just open the public hearing back up and welcome you to the table. If you could state your name for the record.
Okay, my name is Carl Sargent. I live at the corner of Old Loudon Road and Portsmouth Street.
Okay.
And I've lived in that neighborhood since 1954, so I know it very well.
It's changed a lot.
My comment, there's a couple of things. One is the exit from this development. That corner, I go through it all the time. They come out there, and people are supposed to do 20 miles coming across from DeMonte or coming from Old Loudon Road onto Old Loudon Road on that corner. And boy, I have seen some very close accidents there. So they need to do a really detailed to figure out how to eliminate that as a major problem right there. The next thing is, they're talking about keeping a lot of the trees. And I happen to be a landscape consultant myself. Don't look at my house, but the thing is that grove of pines that they're going to take it out of. The thing is, when you open that up, those buildings are huge, and how the effect on, funneling winds through those areas, they could affect those trees because they're about the same age. They're not very old in that. But so, and then the other area is between what used to be the Johnson House, and that's an open area that we'll see those big buildings, and that's what I want to make sure they put a mixed forest in, because pines have got problems, oaks got problems, spruce have definitely got problems, and that. So they need to put a mixed group in there to block us out of that. Across from my house, they did dicks with upright pines, and it's finally getting so I don't see dicks and I don't see the parking lot. I see glimpses of it, but before it was just a big, huge mass that I looked at. And those are the 2 points that I want to make sure that they look at those pretty carefully, and especially that entrance in there, because I've been almost been clipped there a couple of times myself. And I've seen some other close accidents because they come around that corner. It's supposed to be 20, but very few cars make 20, and they hit that. And if they're coming out, and it's a very narrow entrance, just a dumpster that pushes you out, and it's kind of narrow coming out of there between the buildings there that are already built on the, let me see, that would be on the south side of this project. On they front on, they're supposed to front on Loudon Road, but most of them come in on that end. They come in through the light and then turn there and then go to the the restaurants and Aspen Dental and all of those things down through there. So that's my comments, and hopefully they'll bring them up.
Can I just respond to you? So we have had a traffic study done, and the city is aware of the existing problems with that intersection. And so we're sort of in the process of evaluating right now whether the city at some point should, move forward with that, coming up with a solution for that intersection, or whether we are going to ask them to further evaluate the intersection. So that we know it's an existing problem, and their development is obviously going to be adding to it, but not in a super significant way in terms of the existing problem that's already there. So thank you for that.
And the only other thing is, heard a bit about, talk about putting sidewalks along Old Loudon Road. Where are they gonna go? Because Portsmouth Street cannot put sidewalks.
No, yeah, at this point, we're looking at across the street from their development, the length of their frontage, and they do have a crosswalk proposed there,
Right.
and a signalized
All it could do
crosswalk.
would be just a loop back to Loudon Road again, because,
Eventually, yeah.
yeah, eventually, because Portsmouth Street, if the telephone poles were moved an inch on my property, and they're very tight to the street, the electric company and I would be discussing what I'd be paying for electricity.
Right.
Because they're that tight. Because it's one of the oldest roads in the city of Concord. It's not the real old Portsmouth Turnpike, because that was out further, but it was to go to the inn, the Break of Day Inn, which that other development is right next to us in that. And it's a very narrow road. All of Portsmouth Street is a very, very narrow road, so you get back quite a ways. And
So I'd encourage you to come back next month and you'll see some more details on the landscaping.
right.
Okay, thank
Do
you.
you mind, could I just clarify, was your concern about the Old Loudon Road at Loudon Road intersection, or the Chipotle exit at
It's
Old
a
Loudon Road?
Chipotle exit. If you look at it, the dumpster is almost right out. It's tight in there with cars trying to turn in, cars trying to come out. And when you're trying to see when you're coming out, you can't look around that corner. If they come around there at 30, 35 miles an hour, boy, somebody's got to hit the brakes pretty hard to not hit somebody there. I got almost hit twice there.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for your testimony. Okay, now we'll close the public hearing. You guys are free to go. Thank you very much. We'll see you next month. And 7H is up on the dock. So come on up.
Do you want me to-
If we could read that into the record, yeah.
TF Moran, on behalf of Interchange Development, requesting major site plan approval for construction of 2 new buildings, including a 4,940 square foot urgent care facility and an approximate 30,000 square foot mixed-use office retail building at 1, 5, 7, and 9 Interchange Drive in the Gateway Performance District. Staff determined it complete last month, and we recommend you open the public hearing.
Okay, we'll open the public hearing. Welcome to the table. If you guys could state your names for the record.
Good evening, Laurie Rossio with Interchange Development.
I'm Jason Hill, TF Moran.
David Rossio, Interchange Development. Thank you.
Great, welcome. Gonna talk sidewalks at all? Just want to clarify.
Sure.
All night, all we talked about is sidewalks. Well, tell us a little bit about the next step in this exciting project.
Yes, good evening, Chairman and members of the board. Thank you for your time tonight, and it isn't as late as I thought it was going to be, so this is good. I just want to give you a brief overview of what this project, this phase of the project is all about. So I thought I'd start with an aerial of where we are now in the project of Merchants Way. We've come a long way in the last couple of years. It's amazing how much this area has changed. I think a lot of people in the area probably can't remember the time before there was a market basket so close to their homes. At least I can't. So Dave, you have the pointer.
I do.
Okay, so I just want to point out, if you're not familiar with the area, we have the market basket towards the back of this development, which is closest to I-93. Route 4 is on the left-hand side of the screen. The project started out with the gas station back in 2013. Wendy's is at the corner of Merchants Way and Whitney Road, and that opened up last October. Behind the Wendy's.
Hands of a surgeon there, Dave. Just nice and steady.
Trying to impress you. We're impressed. It's working. It's two-handed.
Right behind the Wendy's is the recent project that we're just about to open, which is 4 to 8 Merchants Way. So at 8 Merchants Way is Service Credit Union. They should be opening next week. And Jersey Mike's is at the other end of the building, 4 Merchants Way, and that might be a few more weeks before they open up. Beyond that, you come to the liquor store on the left-hand side, New Hampshire State Liquor and Wine Outlet. And the areas that we're going to talk about tonight are to the south of the Wendy's and the 4 to 8 Merchants Way building, where you see an area of trees and an area of gravel, areas that we haven't touched as part of this project, other than to do underground utilities and other incidentals, drainage for the rest of the project. Does anybody have any questions about where we are in the phasing? Okay. So this is the color version of the comprehensive development plan. And what we've done is shown you in brown the buildings that are currently built and occupied, as we just saw in the aerial. The buildings in the orange are what we're before you tonight for site plan approval, which we're calling Phase 2B. And then the buildings in yellow are in the future phases of 2C and Phase 3. So we have an industrial building towards the back of the site. We have a restaurant site in the middle, and then we have a retail building. We don't know what that's really going to be yet, but that's the one sharing the parking lot with the New Hampshire State Liquor Store. This, I don't know that this made it into the packet, but this is an overview of what the buildings would look like, a massing plan, I guess you'd say, of the large retail building that we're proposing with two tenants to the side. One is a retail tenant, the other one's a medical tenant. And in the background, you can see the urgent care, which is going to be occupied by Concord Hospital. And 4 to 8 Merchants Way is off to the right-hand side of this plan. So the large retail is not yet named, but it's about a 23,000 square foot area. There's a small retail area in the front, and then a medical office space behind to kind of coordinate with the urgent care. And here's another bird's eye view of what this might look like.
Question, can you see the medical building in this? Is that
Yes.
to the?
Yes, right
Oh,
there.
okay,
Yep.
thank you.
That would be the medical building. The service credit union is just peeking into this, in this visualization in the very corner. We have the comments from the staff. We worked with them on the first round of comments, made a bunch of changes. We've addressed, I think, a large majority of the comments in the last go-round of plans, but there's still a few more things that the staff would like us to do, which we don't have any issues with any of the comments. We understand there's some questions about traffic, so we'll be glad to answer any of those, or wait until the staff has finished their review of the traffic. So we don't really have anything else to go over in detail unless you want to touch on something in particular.
Wait till Jeff comes back, talk about traffic.
Well, I believe Jeff had some comments, and we're willing
I
to
have a
talk
quick
to him about
question.
those.
Yes, sir, David.
On your urgent care facility, is that a 24/7 kind of thing, so that it's open all the time?
I think the way the hospital would like us to put it is that they can be, but I don't know that they will be. That's not the intent, but I don't think they want to rule that out.
I'm assuming that everything else is closed if they're open. That's where I'm going with that question. Is at some point, if it's open in the middle of the night, it's all black around.
No, we leave our lights on in the parking lot and the roads
Okay.
in the evening for safety purposes. And a lot of the buildings also have wall packs that are left on,
Okay.
also for safety purposes, security.
Thank you.
Okay, other questions from the board? No? I don't think there's anybody left to ask in the audience. Look at that,
Oh, we cleared the room.
cleared the room.
Familiar with this one.
I know.
So I just want to draw attention to the ADR issue.
I saw
Okay.
that.
So when they came to ADR, Lori let us know during the meeting that the urgent care building, they had hired a new architect and it was going to be different. So we didn't actually have really drawings of what is actually going to be proposed. So ADR was fine with the retail mixed-use building and the site, you know, all other aspects of the ADR approval, but they asked that that building not get ADR approval since we haven't seen any, that basically they have to come back. And I believe that it's okay if you condition the ADR approval on just coming back for that one building, which we haven't seen yet. So they would come back next month, but I think their concern was they don't want to have a whole nother public hearing on everything.
Yeah.
And so to just.
And delay this a month
Right,
later.
to
2
just
months, really.
basically give all the approvals, but conditioned on them coming back for ADR approval for that one building.
With the
Right,
understanding
is
that
that
if ADR has issues, then you come back to us.
Correct, yeah. I should point out that they are working within the footprint that's shown on the plan. We're no intention to change the footprint, the entrance location and so forth. They're just trying to work out their programming inside, and they're working with a new architect to do that. And they had some ideas about the outside that they would like to change. So they are starting fresh with another architect.
Flashing neon and things probably aren't in the.
I think
Get fixed here.
Yeah,
Yeah.
get fixed here. Oh, geez. Okay, other questions from the board? Carol?
Yeah. I'm just wondering, will there be public transportation available to the urgent care at all? Has that been considered at all?
Well, I know that there's senior transit already going to the Market Basket,
Okay.
so they certainly aren't prohibited from coming to the
Yeah.
site. We have a bus stop area. Nobody wanted to take ownership of it, but they're certainly welcome to come in and stop there, whether it's CAT or senior transit or whatever. But
Okay.
they are already coming to the site.
Okay.
I think they do go to Horseshoe Pond already too, so.
We have a pull-off designed at the front entrance
Yes.
sequence
Yes.
for convenient.
Yeah, the fire truck
Unloading.
can pull right up to the door, so I'm sure a bus could as well, but
Sure.
in terms of senior transit, really easy.
Okay, great, thanks.
Okay, other questions from the board?
Well,
Council Pierce?
just a comment, the council struggles with this quite often, and you won't be surprised to learn that lack of labor and people with CDL licenses who are available to drive the bus is really the number one reason why we don't have the expanded bus routes that we would all like to see.
I bet.
So, just to put that out there.
Okay, Suzanne?
Quick comment. I happen to notice that you've got, it's just like, the Coosa Dogwoods.
Okay.
And it's, like, I live in East Concord, and I would never plant one because it's just a little colder. It's like, it's a solid zone 5, but you might wanna just not even go there and find something else that's, I mean, you don't have to, it's just my opinion.
No, it's
but
funny,
you
I
can have
thought- I
something
don't-
else that's flowering.
I don't think we have any Coosa dogwoods right
Yeah.
now, but maybe in the plan.
In the plan.
I think we changed
yeah.
them out the first phase, so I guess I
Yeah.
should have
I
scanned them.
just noticed them here, and I don't care,
Okay.
I like natives and all that stuff, but if I think that you might be wasting your time,
Do
you
you,
might wanna
do you have
reconsider.
a preference?
No,
Oh,
you've
okay.
got a landscape architect working on it, but
Alright. We'll let them know.
Manchester's very different than East Concord,
Mhm.
surprisingly, so.
It's
throwing
the
it out
toll
there.
booth.
Yeah, it's a toll booth effect on the way, I
It's the
can
toll
tell you
booth.
that, absolutely.
Greater Heat Island in
Yeah,
Manchester.
yeah.
Yeah.
Huh?
Greater-
Well, it's also
Greater
like,
Heat Island.
yeah.
And East Concord's just.
Okay, other comments from the board? No? We'll close the public hearing, and again, recognizing that the architectural design review will be a condition of approval, so 3.2 in your packets is gonna be down into the site plan approval. So we'll use as a finding of fact the testimony we've taken tonight, and the comments, the materials that have put in our packet, to go through the recommendations here. I'll start with 3.3.
Mitch,
Yes,
quick question.
Yes,
Just
sir.
From my understanding, did you say that you wanted ADR to approve it and then we are all set?
no, I want ADR to review it. If ADR approves it, they're all set. If ADR has questions, then they come back.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay, so they don't necessarily have to come back if ADR and the applicant are all set?
Well, if we put it as a condition of approval, they do.
Okay.
They won't be able to
Just
check
wondering.
that box off if they don't get ADR's approval.
Okay, I'm confused now.
But if ADR approves it, they're all set?
Yes,
Oh, okay, thank you.
So,
yes.
That's what I wanted to clarify.
I guess I'm confused now. So are you suggesting to, just so we can get it clear for the motion?
Yeah, as a condition of approval, they need to return to the ADR review in August. If ADR approves it, we're all set. If
Okay.
ADR has questions or concerns,
Or
they
wants
need to,
changes?
they need to come back in the August meeting.
So the challenge here is, what if ADR says a bunch of stuff that they don't want to do, then they have to come
Then they gotta
back.
come back.
Okay. ADR also had several recommendations on the existing, on the other building. So I guess my recommendation would be that you grant ADR approval subject to ADR's motion and conditions on the other buildings, which I don't think they had any problem with, and subject to ADR granting approval and any conditions that ADR grants approval on.
Okay.
Because ADR doesn't actually approve it,
power
they
to do it.
recommend to the
Recommend to
planning.
us.
But
they-
they're, but
Yeah.
you
If they
right
recommend
now,
approval, then
We're deferring to them.
we're deferring to
Right.
them.
yes, you right now are giving them the power to approve it.
Big power.
They- But they wouldn't make any changes to the curb cut, the position of the building,
Right,
the
right.
entrance,
None of that.
none of that?
None of
Correct.
that.
Okay.
This is strictly facade treatments and features.
Okay,
Flash.
so, good, we're good with that? Just keep me honest on this subsequent condition, because I'm gonna need you to tell me what it should be. 3.3 is to grant the following waivers to the site plan regulations, and those are outlined in section 19, access and driveway standards, to allow for a 36.2-foot driveway at one interchange and a 31.9-foot driveway at 9 interchange, where a minimum of 28 is required. And section 22072, stormwater recharge, to provide 18 inches of separation to the seasonal high water table where 4 feet is required. Would someone like to make a motion to grant those waivers as outlined?
So moved.
Second.
Motion's made and seconded. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? That motion carries. Grant major site plan approval for the construction of Phase 2 of Interchange Drive, Merchants Way development, as outlined in the packet with precedent conditions 1, 2, and 3, subsequent conditions 1 through 6, and added 7, which is,
Separately from the site plan, it's a separate motion.
Yeah.
So we'll just do it the same way you always do it.
okay, that's fine, as long as that's kosher.
Yep.
So should we do that first, or should we do it before?
Well, you're already halfway
Yeah,
there.
we're
so
halfway,
just
3/4 of the way
keep
through the
going.
site plan. So would
We'll
someone
come
like to
back
make a
around.
motion to grant major site plan as outlined?
So moved.
Second.
Motion's made and seconded. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That motion carries. And now we'll have one more motion on the architectural design review approval.
So, which would be grant ADR approval subject to the conditions recommended by ADR at their July meeting and subject to ADR approval at the next meeting, where I'm not sure when that would be.
August,
At
yeah.
Are you coming to August, or do you think it will be later?
Later.
So, subject to ADR approval of the urgent care building when it comes before them.
Okay, someone like to make a motion as outlined?
So, second.
Motion's made and seconded. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? That motion carries. You're all set?
Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. Good luck.
Good evening.
You as well. Okay.
It's looking good up there.
That brings us to other
Really is.
business.
Drove
Do you need to
through.
make 3 motions?
Yeah, other business. We've got 3 items on our agenda for other business. Ekman Engineering, on behalf of Continental Paving, requests a conditional use permit for disturbance of wetland buffer at 320 Sheep Davis Road in the Gateway Performance District. The applicants requested the continuation to the, requested to be continued to the August 16th Planning Board meeting. With someone, they can make a motion to continue that application to the 16th of August.
Second.
Motion's made and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? That motion carries. Wilcox and Barton, on behalf of First Church Holdings, requests a major site plan approval for the conversion of a church into 34 residential units and related site improvements, and a conditional use permit CUP to allow alternative parking at 177 North Main Street in the Urban Commercial District. The applicants requested to postpone to the August 16th, 2023 meeting. Would someone like to make a motion to postpone that application to the August meeting?
So moved.
Second.
Motion's made and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? That motion carries. And item 10 is TF Moran on behalf of Kevin, TF Bernier, on behalf of Kevin Porter, requests minor subdivision approval for a 2-lot subdivision at 35 Reserve Place in the open space residential district. The applicant has requested a postponement to the August 16th meeting. Would someone like to make a motion to postpone that application to the August meeting?
So moved.
Second.
Motion's made and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? That motion carries. And again, for the record, item 11 on our agenda is the charitable gaming decision that was made at last month's meeting. There was some public testimony and, some public comments and information that was received by staff. We wanted to make sure to get that in the record. And that's what item 11 is on the agenda. Anything else which would become before the board tonight? No? If not, we will take a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Motion has been made and seconded, I believe. All those in favor?
Roundly.
Aye.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? That motion carries. We are adjourned. Thank you very much, everyone. We'll see you in August.
Good to see you.